Welcome to episode 19 of the Whatnauts Review Show. Every week we pick a story and we talk about it. It could be a movie, TV series, anime, manga, comic book, audio show, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, we read it, we listen to it, and then we come back here and we discuss it. It's like a little book club, but replace book with anything you can dream of. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined by Kyle Springer. Kyle, how are you?
I'm good. Dream big, kids. This show can be anything. A book club about anything. You can do it. Live your dreams. I'm doing good. This is our second take for the start of this episode because I kind of screwed things up. But we are experimenting and trying some new things. At least I am on my end here. So we usually live stream these episodes, right? And we use OBS to stream it. But we've been having major problems with OBS for God knows why. I still haven't been able to figure it out. So I'm using a different software to live stream right now. Well, I guess we're not live streaming it. I'm only recording it in that software right now. So it's a different software, but it's not. It's a different version of OBS. It's Streamlabs OBS, which I like the interface a whole hell of a lot better. It has a whole bunch of features that the regular OBS does not, so I like it. But it's not available on Mac, so I'm using my laptop to record this stuff. And so this is the first time that I'm truly testing out my laptop to see if it can at least record all of this and not blow up. So we are in for a treat. Obviously, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, there are no cameras. That was not supposed to be the case. There were supposed to be cameras here today, but for some reason they are not working right now. So there you go, kids. That's where we're at. But besides that, I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, it's like a really cool peek behind the scenes into all of the technical work that goes into the show that I don't even know about because you do it all on your end, and I just show up when I show up and I talk when we talk.
The past couple weeks have been a nightmare trying to get this stuff figured out. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully this goes smoothly. Fingers crossed. I guess you guys can't see me right now. I was gesturing towards my camera, but oh well. Melissa, you can see me.
Only technical... Yes, I can see you. You had both of your fingers crossed, so you're doubly lucky.
Melissa's my witness.
Yep. My technical troubles recently, personally, have been that my old phone, which is not that old in terms of human life, but it's kind of old for a phone. I got it in November 2015. Years. Yeah. It has not been charging regularly, and I thought about taking it in to get repaired. Like, no, I think you just need to just put this one out. I mean, it still works. It can charge sometimes, just not 100% of the time, like you would like a phone to charge. Like, do I really want to spend money on repairing something that's kind of on the edge of getting old, and the next time some part of it goes out, who knows if it'll even be able to be repaired? So I bought a new phone today.
What'd you get?
It is a Samsung 8 S8. There's probably some part of the name besides Samsung and 8.
It's a Samsung 8.
It's one of those fancy looking ones that has like an infinity screen where it kind of like curls at the end.
Yeah.
When I was talking to the guy at the Verizon store, I was trying to explain to him what kind of phone I needed, and I said, in terms of my relationship with technology, I'm not Steve Rogers and I'm not Tony Stark. I'm somewhere in the middle, like maybe a Bruce Banner. What's the phone for Bruce Banner?
That is
not
great.
Hulk, but Bruce Banner.
I need a phone for
like,
science
I
bros.
get it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I will have to report back later once I actually learn how to use it on if it is good.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's get kicking on the episode here.
Yeah. This week we are discussing the 2001 cult hit film Wet Hot American Summer. This is a personal favorite of mine, and I pitched it in a series of summer films. It is August 2nd as we are recording this. I'm like, well, let's get these in before we run out of summer.
There
Kyle, what were your initial impressions of this?
I literally just got done watching it like an hour ago. That's why when you were like, let's start it at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I was like, can we push it back a little bit? I gotta watch this and eat still and do all that stuff. Actually, I didn't even tell my burger story. I just had a nightmare trying to make food too. But
here, you can, if you want, you can tell me about the nightmare. I realized I forgot to plug in my charger, so I'm listening. Okay. I will just move out of the camera's view.
Maybe I'll get to the burger story at the end of this. It'll be like a post-credits scene, like in a Marvel movie, so that we can actually kind of get to talking about this and not bore people half to death. But yeah, so I have never seen this film. This was my first time watching it. I had heard people talk about it. I knew that Netflix kind of revived it. I didn't know they did more than one kind of thing. But yeah, like it was interesting. I didn't know what to expect because no one had ever described it to me other than that it's like summer camp, and that's it. And so yeah, I didn't really know what to expect going in. And as I've been thinking about it for the past hour, I think this is a film that grows on you over time. I think initially a lot of the comedy didn't land for me. It's not necessarily my style, but at the same, like, thinking back on it, it's still, like, that was really good. That was a lot of fun. Like, I think for me, what it ended up doing was reminding me of my own memories at summer camp, and just like my times and the stupid shit that I've done when I've been at church camp during the summer, all summer long. God,
this is a sleepaway camp?
We did some we did some stupid shit.
Because you've got a perspective I don't have. I never went to anything like that. I tried a day camp 1 year when I was 10, and my parents were like, you really just want to stay home and watch TV, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, you don't need to spend this money. I'll be happy at home. And they're like, okay, next year you're at home.
So, yeah, like, I think for me, the biggest thing that it did was bring back all of those memories. Just being like, I know that kid. I did that thing right there that they're doing. I got put in all of these stupid situations. And so, like, it was very relatable comedy in that sense. However, I think, like I mentioned, some of the comedy didn't land for me exactly. It was a little over the top. It was a little overacted, which is kind of how it's supposed to be, right? It's a big spoof on all of this. So yeah, I ended up having a lot of fun.
Awesome.
You mentioned this was one of your favorites. Why is it one of your favorites?
And I'll admit, I think it didn't really hit me until after I'd seen it, like, maybe 2 or 3 times. Like, the first time I watched it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I like this. I'm not laughing super loud at everything, but it's a movie that has a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah.
And I just
There's
laugh
actually
like
a
riot.
Lot packed in there Just
Yeah.
if it's not like verbally in the background, it's in there visually in the background, but there's also something going on in the forefront. There's so much stuff, and it's nonstop too, because there wasn't much of an actual plot, and we'll do a synopsis in just a sec here in case you guys haven't seen the film. But yeah, like there wasn't really much of a plot. It seemed more like a bunch of vignettes or small skits that they were like, hey, remember playing Capture the Flag at summer camp? Hey, remember arts and crafts? And they're like, yeah, what about farts and crafts, you know? Like it's just it was them kind of all sitting around coming up with the stupid stuff that happens at summer camp. And I think they nailed it.
Yeah.
That's good.
I've seen this movie like 5 or 6 times now, and like I'm still finding like lines and like visual gags I did not pick up on before. It's jam-packed. It is such a riot, and you get to see all of these famous actors when they were pretty young. Yeah.
I almost didn't recognize Bradley Cooper. I saw him, I was like, oh shit, that's him. I mean, you mentioned he was in there, but he showed up, and I was like, I wonder who that is. I was like, oh, that is Rocket Raccoon.
And we've also got Ant-Man.
Yeah,
incredible
Paul
work
Rudd.
by Ant-Man in this film. So the basic plot of this movie is that it is Camp Firewood. It is a summer camp in, I think it's 1981. Yes. And this is the final day of camp. And there is going to be a big talent show at the end of the night. So the story is kind of leading up to that. And it's a lot of tales of people just... Oh, well, it's a spoof of those 80s teen sex comedies. So, like, people are trying to get with the hottie. People are trying to lose their virginity. Even the camp director, she develops a crush on this astrophysicist who lives in a cabin next to the camp.
Yep.
And it's just all these intertwining stories of just love and excitement and just being your best self and theater and astrophysics and saving the camp from having Skylab fall on it.
Yep. It's kind of ridiculous. I think I know sometimes at the end of our episodes we often kind of will be like, hey, if you liked this, go check out this other movie. This kind of reminded me of Hot Rod. If you've ever seen Hot Rod, I fucking love that film. It's so good. But it's that same same kind of like random movie with just like the stupidest skits that is. It's like, what the fuck is this? and it's that type of thing. So if you like that type of comedy, I think this is a good one to watch.
I have not seen Hot Rod. I went to a house party once.
Oh, you need
and
to.
All the girls got in one room and watched Mean Girls, and all the guys got in another room and watched Hot Rod.
Hot Rod, amazing.
It was... Mean Girls is good. I had a fine time watching Mean Girls, but those guys were laughing so much. And I'm like, I want to go... Can I move? Can I, like, switch shifts? I want to see what Hot Rod is, and I still have not seen what Hot Rod is.
So we did an episode on American Gods. The actor who does Tuesday is he's one of the actors in Hot Rod, and he's like this old like dying uncle, and Andy Samberg is in it. He's the main character, and he's this wannabe stunt man, but he's terrible at it. It's the stupidest stuff. It's fantastic, and it reminded me, or this movie, Wet Hot American Summer, reminded me of that a lot. So good stuff. But yeah, spoilers. You want to get into spoiler mode?
Yep, we are going to dive into the lake, regardless of whether or not there's a camp counselor watching us. So if you don't want to know how this movie ends, if you don't want to know anything about that talent show, you can stop here, you can go watch the movie, and you can come back to us when you're ready.
There you go. Hello, Mudda. Hello, Fada. Here I am at Camp Granada. Yeah, like I said, this brought back a lot of memories for me. So I'm sure you guys will get to hear a couple of those stories, at least in short, on this. So go watch the film and then come back, because this should be a good time. There we go. That is your chance to go watch it and come back. Let's dive in. I guess I don't really have a specific spot that I want to start.
I have something I want to ask you.
Sure, go for it.
From the it's easy to tell this is a wacky comedy. At what point did it turn for you and you're like, oh, this is a weird comedy?
When they go into town. Because, like, I up until that, like, I think my favorite joke in that is immediately after they get back from town. So this is so relatable for me when that character is going into town and like people notice the car and they're like, she's going into town, go, let's go, and they're all like hopping in and like, can you give me stuff. Going into town during like the summer camp that I went to was the best thing ever. Because we were there for a week at a time, and if you were like me, you stayed there the entire summer. And our only time without campers, or as a camper, the first time I went to summer camp, I was 8 years old, and I was a camper, and I moved my way up till I was a junior counselor, and then I went to like teen camp and all, and then I was like a normal counselor and all of that stuff. But the weekends from like Sunday afternoon until like Monday morning, or I guess Sunday night is when they started when the new campers started showing up. But that afternoon was our free time of just like, let's go into town, let's go to Target, let's stock up on candy and soda and all that stuff, and hide it from all of the kids the entire week so we have our own secret stash. It was like, have you seen the movie Heavyweights?
I have not.
Oh my god, you need to see that one too, especially for summer camp stuff. But there's that's also like a good summer camp. It's a summer camp for overweight kids, and it's like supposed to be whipping them into shape, but it's it's this like heartwarming story of them kind of coming to terms with who they are and their bodies and stuff like that. But there's this funny scene when one of the counselors comes in and basically does a like drug raid on the cabin and is like turning it upside down, looking for all the campers' secret stashes of candies and stuff. And it's ridiculous. There's Kenan Thompson from Kenan and Kel is in the movie. Oh god, and I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. I think he's a former SNL actor is in there too. I want to say Chris Farley, but I don't remember if that's who I'm thinking. If that's the right name or who I'm thinking of. But anyways, going into town in this film, they were so excited, and I was like, oh yeah, like I know that. And then they're like buying drugs and doing cocaine and heroin and beating up grandmas, and I was like, wow, that's that's okay.
Yeah,
We're going
it
there.
takes the jump from like, oh, let's get a bunch of candy and french fries, to let's buy beer, to let's smoke some weed, to
let's do
buy,
heroin.
like, hard drugs, to like all of them are strung out in some horrible looking drug den and they're beating people up for drug money, and
But
then
the
suddenly
joke-
they're back at
The joke is when they get back to camp.
Yes.
And they were like, wow, that was the best hour I've spent like out of camp. Like, they did all of that in a fucking hour? Like, they just this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was that was the first like laugh out loud moment I had. I was like, no. That was an entire hour. Holy moly.
I think for me, the moment when I realized this is a completely, not just wacky and bold, but like a bizarre, absurd movie, is when, I forget which two characters they are, but they're sitting on like the sort of dock out in the lake, and they're having a conversation, and when it's over, one of them stands up, walks to the edge of the dock, and then just falls in without saying a word. He doesn't jump in, he just falls into the lake.
It's like he, without losing momentum, he gets to the edge and lanes off. But you would think he would stop at the edge and then kind of lean until you fall. He like the speed at which he falls is the same pace as he was walking. So it was so like, it's just like,
he's
wait,
not
what?
tripping. He just, it's like a slinky going over a step.
Yeah.
It's such fantastic physical comedy that has no reason to be there, but I love that it's there.
It was great, yeah. Man. And we had a lake too at the camp that I went to, and you had to take a swimming test, and they would give you like armbands based on how well you were a swimmer. Because if you didn't know how to swim, they wanted to be like, okay, you have a red band. Like, we need to watch you, so you don't accidentally kill yourself.
Yeah.
Or you don't accidentally let a kid drown. And does he come back in the film? Does that? I never actually paid attention enough to see if he came back, because there's a whole thing where he's like, I jumped off the boat, oh no, I'm drowning, someone help me. And then
the counselor
goes
who walks
under
into the lake comes back. The kid drowns, and his swimming buddy gets thrown out of the van.
But does the kid that drowns ever come back?
I wasn't
totally
watching
didn't
the
pay
extras
attention.
enough. Yeah. And this
is
a movie that is...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna explain, like, for the listener, if they haven't watched the movie, so they can picture what's going on in their heads. The counselors are played by, they're supposed to be in the story of the movie, like, 16, 17, 18 years old. They're played by adult actors.
Yeah.
Nothing is said about it. They are the same age as Janine Garofalo playing the camp counselor, the camp director. But the kids are all real kids. And they're all really good performers.
They're really good actors, actually. That was something else I noticed. I was like, the one dude who helps the arts and crafting, he was phenomenal. Where is he at in life? What movies is he in now? I want to watch those, because that kid was amazing.
And it's a testament to how much is in this movie that every time I watch it again after I haven't seen it since, like, the previous summer, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about the art teacher storyline. I forgot Molly Shannon was in this.
Yep.
There's so much. Like, the big things that stick out in my mind are the talking can of vegetables, the trip to town, you taste like a burger, I don't like you anymore, and when Paul Rudd has to clean up the lunch tray he dropped.
Yep. And he just has the biggest attitude.
Yes.
Just, oh my god. It's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
This movie's got a lot of amazing physical performance and a lot of really great line reads. Like, David Hyde Pierce is in this. And nobody knows how to just read you a line like David Hyde Pierce.
I don't know who David Hyde Pierce is. Educate me.
That's Niles Crane. He plays the astrophysicist.
Okay. What else is he in?
He's Niles Crane. He's Frasier's brother. He's been a voice in a jillion things.
Frasier.
Okay.
So.
He's Dr. Delbert Doppler in Treasure Planet.
Okay.
I believe he is the giant pill man in Osmosis Jones.
Oh, God.
Like, he's done so many voices, I can't even, like, name all of them. He's prolific.
Is he more well-known as a voice actor?
No, he's known for being Frasier's brother.
Oh, well, okay. Good. Touche.
It's okay. I'm sure you know,
there.
like, some, minor supporting character from Seinfeld is going to show up sometime, and you're going to know them, and I'm not.
Yes, because you name anything Seinfeld, I'm like, yes, I know that. But when and it's Frasier or Friends, I have no idea what's happening. Though I do know that Paul Rudd was on Friends, so there you go.
This is true.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
I want to say that my favorite scene in the movie is there's these two guys that are trying to set up their friends. Like, oh, McKinley hasn't gotten laid all summer. We got to get him a girl. It's the last day of camp. And, like, while the two of them are, like, watching these girls swim, and they're like, what about this girl? No, what about this other girl? And it's muted in the soundtrack, but if you listen, every girl is named Debbie. It's like Debbie, tall Debbie, not so tall Debbie. They're all Debbies. While they're talking about who they want to set him up with, he goes to, like, the utilities shack and has a sex scene with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
And then later, when those two buddies are trying to find him again, they find him and Bradley Cooper just getting married in the forest. It is a beautiful wedding. The camp director is presiding over them. Amy Poehler is there playing the flute.
Which is
they have, like, flower crowns
kinky,
on.
Apparently. He's like, hey, I think she's playing the flute. He goes, that's kinky.
That's my favorite scene because it comes out of nowhere. It's so funny and it's also very sweet. And they're married the rest of the movie. That wasn't a one-time gag and then they drop it. Well, they're husband and husband.
It comes back up later on when someone gets them a gift off of their registry from Crate and Barrel. They're like, oh my gosh, we haven't had one of these. It's gonna go great next to the thing, And I'm just like, what? This is in the middle of the cafeteria on the last day of summer camp, and it's this giant package that I think he lifts up by himself.
It's a chaise lounge. I think he does lift alone.
Yeah. There's a lot of rewatch value with this thing. Mm-hmm. So you said you've never been to. It sounds like you went once, and it was like a day camp and stuff like that.
The community center, like 10 minutes away from my house. We just watched movies and swam in the pool and like. They might have tried to teach us to play basketball. Was it more like a YMCA style, like summer more like daycare that sort of thing? Kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So the camp that I went to, I grew up very religious. So this was my church camp. And I know a lot of people went to church and never really practiced, like all the kids like never really practiced it and stuff like that. This was kind of the opposite. Like a majority of us were like actually very into this, and that's just like this is what we did. And it wasn't until like college that I started to being like, you know what, this isn't for me. And then it was like halfway in college that I stopped. But the summer camp that we went to was always like the most fun thing. Like I still just like, those are some of the best like memories that I've ever had. It was fantastic. I mentioned the first time I went, I was 8 years old. And I don't remember if it was that year, if it was another year, but one of the things we could do to the other cabins is we could do these raids, and I'm saying that with air quotes. Basically, we could pull kind of these harmless, practical pranks on other cabins. Like, we would take their dinner table and put it out on the canoes on the lake, and they would have to go get it, you know, or you know, stuff like that. Or if you left wet laundry out at night, it was up for grabs, and someone could hide it and like hang it up on the basketball hoop and have a ransom note that, you know, just stupid stuff like that. But it would, what we would do the next day is we would have raid court. So the first thing after breakfast, we would have this like this like Judge Judy style court session where we could accuse other cabins of like, you were the ones that stole our laundry because this person said this, and they're doing that, and they would stand up and they would have to be like, guilty or not guilty, and
I love this.
Depending on that, if they were guilty or not, someone would get a consequence. So if we caught them, they would be punished, and it was like, you guys are gonna get shaving cream crowns, and you're gonna have to wear it for all of second period. It's stupid stuff like that. Or if we accused someone and we got it wrong, we were the ones that were punished.
Dangerous.
And so I remember, let's see, what exactly happened. So for some reason, I don't remember if we accused someone and got it right or wrong. Oh, no. So we raided, I think, the old... I was in the youngest boys' cabin, and we raided the oldest girls' cabin. And of course, the young boys aren't going to be sneaky or stealthy. They're going to get caught every single time. We didn't know that at the time because we're eight-year-olds. We're like, yeah, we're ninjas. We're super spies. Yeah, it's great. And so in raid court the next morning, we got caught. They accused us, and we were like, yeah, that was us, guilty. But the punishment was we were to get mud facials. They like mud masks and stuff, because they were the oldest girls, and at the camp I think the oldest age was like 12 or 13. So it's these 12 or 13-year-old girls that get to do like makeup and facials on the youngest boys. So they loved it. But the judge gave them 10 minutes to go down to the lake and fill buckets with mud and bring it back. But their time limit was 10 minutes. And if they didn't get back in 10 minutes, then we were scot-free. Well, it took them 15 minutes. And we were like, yes, we don't have to do it. But the judge was like, well, we're going to do it anyways. And we're like, no! It was the worst day of my life.
I love this so much.
I hated everyone that day. I was like, you liar!
Is Raid Judge... Is Raid Judge just like another 13-year-old? Is it a counselor?
It was an adult counselor, usually dressed up as some kind of wacky character in like wig and an outfit and stuff, they could make it up. They had like super soakers and and stuff like that. It was ridiculous.
I don't know if it's better. I like both ideas, that this is a child government like King Bob and Recess, or that it is an adult who's like, the kids can pilfer as much innocuous stuff as they want. I'm so happy I suggested we did this movie. I didn't know it was going to come with so much background detail.
Amazing stories. So yeah, there was stuff like that where I just had the worst day of my life. Like this was like an 8-year-old boy having makeup put on his face is the end of the world, right? And so I'm sitting there like crying, being like, "This is the worst day of my life. Don't look at me." And yeah, and then I had so one of the years that I was a counselor, a whole bunch of the junior counselors. By this time, we were at a different location for the camp, and we were actually renting it from these other people, and some of the people that lived on the camp to like maintain it and stuff like that. This guy was a big old scary dude. Like you'd like think, what's his name? Christopher Maloney, the lunch man in this, except he wasn't the chef and he was more of like the maintenance guy, but was actually looked like he was gonna kill someone. And one of the nights, it was a summer. Were there campers there? Yeah, there was campers there. I think it was teen camp though, so they didn't really divide it up by age. It was like 13-year-olds to 18-year-olds all mixed up, and there was just multiple cabins. But there was one cabin there that wasn't campers. It was like the female like maintenance staff and stuff for the camp. They had their own cabin, and so all of the like junior counselors that were guys got together and were like, we want to scare the fuck out of them. And so we were trying to come up with ideas and stuff, and I was on maintenance that week. I didn't have campers or stuff, so I was kind of working with this guy that was super scary, and a couple of us were like, why don't we invite him to like help us think of something? He knows this camp.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, it totally was. But we got him involved because we're like, he knows this. He can help us come up with something that we normally couldn't do, but because he was on our side, we could probably get away with doing something maybe a lot worse than than what we could do. And so I think there was like 10 of us, and we're like, can you help us out with this? We don't have an idea yet. And you can just see him thinking. He goes, okay, meet me in the parking lot at midnight. And we're like, done deal. So it's midnight, all the lights are out, all the campers are asleep, and we go and we meet him in the parking lot, which is between the parking lot and the girls' cabins. There's like the archery range and like a good amount of like woods. And so we're sitting there, and he's not there yet. So we're like, what in the world is happening? And it's a foggy night, so you can't see more than like 50 feet away from you. He finally comes walking up like 20 minutes later and has a chainsaw. And we're like, oh shit, what did we get ourselves into? And so we're sitting there, and he comes up, and he's not saying much. We're like, what's the plan? And he's like, okay, we're gonna wait for a couple more people. It looks like there was 2 of you that are still not here. We're like, yeah, they'll be here in a sec. And so we're just waiting there for a while, and eventually everyone gets there, and we're like, okay, what's the plan? And goes, we're gonna cut their power And then we're gonna scare the hell out of them. We're gonna surround the cabin. We're gonna start banging on it. I'm gonna have my chainsaw. It was a chainsaw with no chain on it, so it wouldn't actually cut anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if it hit something, it would still spark. So he was like, okay, I need someone to come with me to go cut the power. And a friend of mine raised his hand, and the two of them just walked off. And they were gone for like 20 minutes, and they're like, we were sitting there like, oh God, he killed Nick. Oh God, he killed Nick. Nick isn't coming back. And as we were actually starting to seriously worry, he comes back by himself, just with the chainsaw. And we're like, oh God, no. Oh God, Nick, poor Nick. And he's like, all right, we have 10 minutes. Nick will cut the power in 10 minutes. So we're gonna go sneak up and surround their cabin. And when it cuts, when the power cuts out, that's when you guys just start banging on the sides of the cabin wall and stuff like that. So we start moving out and just trying to be as quiet as we can. And we end up surrounding the cabin, but of course we're in the woods, so they can hear stuff. They can hear something out there, and they're like, hello? Is anyone out there? But at night, when you have the lights on inside, you can't see outside. And so we almost have the thing surrounded, and the lights go out. And so we run up to the cabin. We start banging on the sides of the walls, and they all just scream. And then you hear this. He fucking sticks this thing inside the windows and starts waving it around. And the thing is hitting the sides of things and sparking and all of this. We were horrified. Is this legal? Is this can we do this? And yeah, and so then after a minute, they finally one or two of them came out of the cabin and be like, what the heck is going on? And so then we all just ran off. We never actually got caught because they didn't know if it was a specific cabin or a certain group of people, stuff like that. But we called it the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because we scared the hell out of them. Blood-curdling screams that you would hear in a horror movie from these girls. It was amazing. Those are one of the best times of my life.
That was riveting.
And that's the shit that we did at church camp. No, other stupid stuff that we did, some friends of mine got sent home one year because they went on the zip line late at night, nude. And they got caught by some of the administrators as they were doing that. So that was really funny. On one of the weekends that we had some time to go and hang out in town, I got kicked out of a Target for doing stuff. I that might be one I save for the end of the show too, because now it's just let's have Kyle shared camp stories. But yeah, I got kicked out of a Target, almost got kicked out of the art museum in Philly where the Rocky statue is because of the same thing.
What?
So stick around at the end to hear that story. But back to this film.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's what this did. This brought all of that back. So I was just like, this is amazing. I remember the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I remember the one time I single-handedly won the archery competition, like all of that stuff. It was just like, this is amazing. I remember like just being in close proximity to all those people. You get a real strong connection with certain people there, so you end up liking someone by the end of the week. And we had our camp-wide party at the end of the week, and it was a dance, and you could kind of dance with people, and stuff like that. So I was just like, this is bringing back a flood of memories. Crazy stuff. I'm sure you were the one, that took notes on stuff of like,
yes.
I'm just sitting here like, I remember that one time. Did you have any other like burning questions that you wanted to ask me about this film, or topics you wanted to discuss? Because I might bring up some of the acting if you don't have anything else.
We've been talking a lot about like the jokes of this movie, and there's actually a technical thing I want to bring up. I love the opening scene of this movie.
Yeah,
which is
the opening credits were fantastic.
It's all the kids dancing around the main characters, the teens, the counselors, not the kids. It's everybody dancing around this campfire, and like somebody's playing a guitar, and they're playing Jefferson Starship's Jane, which is a really good choice. And it's blocked very well. Like, everybody is moving great, dancing around. It doesn't look too hokey and too choreographed. And the way the credits interact with like everybody's bodies is sort of angularly moving across the screen. Like, it gives you the setting that you're going to be working with, of course, but it also lets you know, like, this is a filmmaker who technically knows what he's doing. You're in safe hands. Now, stick with us and watch as this thing gets completely bonkers.
Yeah.
But then you go back after having watched the entirety of the movie, and the opening doesn't seem too serious. It doesn't seem too normal. Like, it completely works with the way the rest of the movie feels.
Yeah. That's an interesting... it's kind of like this. It fits, but it doesn't. And it fits because it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
If that makes... Because, again, like, all of these skits felt like it was just these kind of... Like, this montage of vignettes. Like, let's play Capture the Flag again. Let's do this and that. So, yeah, like, I think what it really did is it actually captured the actual spirit of that time.
Yeah.
Like late 70s, early 80s, right when, like you said, like I felt like on a more serious note, it fit that really well, and just the the quote unquote good times, that were had back then. And then it goes in a completely different direction. But at the same time, I guess from my perspective, again, I've mentioned it multiple times now, that it brought back all of these memories of the good times that I had back then. And so, yeah, they both end up doing the same thing, but in completely different ways. And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and this movie does have a lot of spirit to it. It has a lot of sincerity.
We've got spirit. Yes, we do.
It's completely off the wall, but you can tell there's a lot of affection there for what a summer camp is. Like, they're not pessimistic about the entire institution. Like, they love it and they want to play with it and have fun with it. And the counselors don't care about the kids, but the kids care about the counselors and the staff so much. Like, there's the little boy, like, there's everybody in the art class, like, helping the arts teacher. There's all of the misfit kids that get paired with the astrophysicist, and they love him. Like, the kids are all such good eggs
last day
in this
doing
movie.
science projects.
Yeah, I love that group of misfits. I like how they were all very different kinds of nerds.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting the, like, emo chick to be, like, the punk rocker chick to be there. That wasn't I was like, oh yeah, I guess maybe back then when punk, I guess I don't know when the punk scene first came along, but yeah, just that, like, you look like someone who wouldn't have very many friends in this kind of time or at that camp. You know, you're dressed in all black, and you know, like, you don't look like you fit in. So yeah, it was good. It was good. Lots of misfits and stuff. Was there any other moments that you felt kind of did a similar thing, whereas, like, this fits but it doesn't fit?
I will say, I think the joke that still doesn't really work for me is when they're at the talent show and that hokey comedian comes out. And I get why it's there. It's a callback to, like, those old Catskills comedians. And that's, like, the adult version of what the summer camp is. Like, I think the summer camp is set in Jersey, or at least has a very, like, East Coast feel.
Yeah.
And that guy's from, like, East Coast resort towns. So I understand why it's there, and I'm sure it hits way better for somebody, like, from that area, or maybe, like, older than I am, and I recognize what it is and why it's there. I think the shots of everybody laughing uproariously to the dumbest jokes is really fun. But, like, I don't laugh like they do.
To me, it was more callback of the actual talent shows that everyone knows is really fucking lame, and no one is good at anything, especially at that age. And if you are good at that, you're not spending your summer camp there. You're at an entirely different summer camp, you know, doing that thing that you're actually good at. And just to have the like few staff members that are actually trying to pep everyone up and be very enthusiastic and come on kids, you know, summer camp, and just to have that one guy being like, okay, I need to be the MC for this. Man, I remember when I was in camp, it was the Ice Age, you know, and it's just like, you're fucking lame, dude. Like, everyone, and he's just trying so hard, you know, and so the fact that they are actually, I mean, I guess they're not actually laughing, but it's this, like, these scenes of forced laughter, you know, and it's just like the most ridiculous stuff. You know, it's not funny, but because they're doing these scenes of this ridiculous forced laughter and everyone is doing it, it's like, okay, this is actually kind of funny that they're spending this much time on it.
Yeah, and every performer is giving it their all. Like, there's so many top-notch performances in this. Like, this time, I spent a lot of time watching Amy Poehler, because she's a big star now, but she's not in this movie very much. This was at the beginning of her career, but every time she is on screen, she just owns it. Like, she puts so much into every line and every facial expression.
Fantastic, yeah. The scene where she had to put the nerd dude in the lineup was great, and just how upset she is and, like, physically hurt by this. Like, but just come on, like, you know. And she's so mad, and then she goes, fine, I'll put him at the end, and then she walks off, and she gets mad again. She always wins. Like, you were the one that gave in. Like, it's like, that was fantastic. It was awesome. Who would you say is your favorite performer in this?
It might be David Hyde Pierce, just because that man is, like, walking charisma and walking magnetism. Like, he's been incredible in everything I've ever seen him in. I know he's won at least one Emmy from being on Frasier.
Okay.
And he's just so good and so precise at what he's doing. Like, there's a moment when he's running a bunch of scientific calculations and, like, one of them looks bad or something goes wrong and he curses and he just says, "Oh, fuck my cock." But it's it's said so politely and so
out.
precisely.
That was the first time you cussed on the Whatnauts show. So congratulations.
Yeah, I guess it is. But
I mean,
like,
technically you're quoting someone else, but anyways, carry on.
If I say it of my own volition, like, I will email you a quarter to put in a jar.
Hell yes. I will be rich. But yeah, just like the way he says that completely threw me off guard, because he says it so harshly too. It's not even like this under my belt, like, fuck my cock, god damn it. You know, it's just like, fuck my cock. He's so harsh about it.
At the beginning, when the camp counselor, like, first goes over to meet him, and she learns that that he's a scientist, she's like, "Oh, you should come over and, like, run a science activity for the kids." And he's kind of shy. He's like, "Oh, no, I don't think I want to." And she's like, "Are you sure? You know, we've got free time." And he's like, "No." And she's like, yeah, I think the kids would really like it if you want to come over." And he screams,
"No, go away."
I said no! Like, so loud. And it always hits me whenever a line is screamed for no good reason. But he's extra special good at it.
Yeah. He reminds me of Kip from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah. I can see that.
They have the same look about them. But yeah. Anyway, so you liked him. I think for me, I want to say it's Chris Maloney.
Yeah.
as the lunch man. He's he's perfect at that. It's just, to me, that's one of the things. Like, a lot of the comedy in this show is very physical, situational comedy.
Yeah,
it's very much like, you can tell, like, because you mentioned that a lot of these guys are in the same, like, comedy group, and, like, this was their thing. And I don't know if he was in the same comedy group as them or not. But his type of comedy was completely different than everyone else's. Yeah. And it was one of those things, like, it doesn't fit, but because it doesn't fit, it fits so well. Like, again, like, I mentioned that there was that one guy who worked at the camp who looked kind of like him, that he's just like, you don't want to mess with that guy because he's kind of scary and weird. We don't really know what he's about, you know? But I've seen, I feel like we all have a stereotype of lunch ladies and lunch men, you know? Yeah. But
I've never heard the term lunchmen before. I like it a lot.
Lunchmen, lunch gentlemen. But yeah, he's the one. Like, I absolutely see him being the lunch man. Can I just call him a lunch lady? That makes so much. That works out so much better. So I can see someone like him being a lunch lady, but at the same time, like, just that, like, has he just been mowing the lawn and is he now cooking? Like, I don't know, you know. And but just, he has this darker sense of humor where he's talking about how he's been in Nam and stuff like that. But yeah, and then this, like, oddly sexual, like, I'm gonna go rub mud on my butt. It's like, wait, what? What did you just say? He's like, I don't know. I said I'm gonna go, and he's, you know, he says something else.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he has the arc of just like, you know what, you should own who you are. Like, I'm proud to be who I am. I'm gonna go hump this refrigerator, and he just leaves by humping they wheel out a refrigerator for him, and that's how he leaves that scene. It's fantastic.
And he humps it lovingly. It's not a furious hump. It's very tender.
it's tender humping.
Yeah.
But I really liked him, and then I think at the end, because his like typical 80s montage has the like he is the
Yes.
Zen master, and
Yeah.
and the guy comes in like, teach me of this new way, and he's like, I will teach you the new way, and it's this like 80s dance montage where he's like teaching him this dance routine. It's like, what in the world is even happening here?
Yeah, it's like not for anything specific.
Which,
he wants
by
to
the way,
get this
Hot
girl.
Rod has a scene almost exactly like that, which is why I was like, this reminds me so much of Hot Rod. It's fantastic.
I have to watch this now.
Yeah, it's great. It's all of the like SNL people of like maybe 5 years ago on Hot Rod. It's like Andy Samberg and he's in everything now.
It's 9 years ago, Kyle. At least I just did some math.
Well, okay, you know what? I don't like your
I'm
attitude.
sorry. I'm sorry to tell you about the passage of time, the dark passage bringing us all to our deaths. Hot Rod's probably a decade old.
I mean, yeah, the movie is a decade old, but like Andy Samberg and I guess a bunch of them are still on SNL now. But I like when I remember them being big on SNL was like maybe 5 years ago, like 2012, 2013 ish.
Yeah.
I'm totally blanking on their names. I didn't know if someone said their name.
I'd
You know
help
what?
you
We
out,
have
but
this magical thing called the interwebs.
Yeah, I cannot picture a face from Hot Rod besides Andy Samberg himself and
I
either
know-
a car or motorcycle.
I know someone else is screaming their names at me right now. Hot Rod, IMDb from 2007. The actors: Bill Hader, Danny McBride,
Oh, yes! Yes.
Ian McShane, Will Arnett, Chris Parnell.
Yes.
There's a whole bunch of people. It's fantastic. It's great. But
Speaking
I was
of
thinking of
Chris-
Danny McBride. He's in everything nowadays.
He's good. Speaking of Chris Parnell, who is on Archer with H. John Benjamin, what did you think about the talking can of vegetables?
I recognized the voice, but then in the because you mentioned when you pitched this, you mentioned that someone was a can of vegetables, and I was like, I was like, I'm gonna let that one slide. Okay, and then there was a can of talking vegetables, and it goes back to I liked Christopher Maloney's character because at the end he just has this like head nod towards the can of vegetables, and the can like head nods back, and that's it. I was like, that's amazing. I love that. Who is that? Because when I looked in the credits, I don't recognize that name.
Okay.
But I know I've heard that voice.
That is H. John Benjamin. I believe in some things he's credited as just John Benjamin. That's Bob Belcher. That's Sterling Archer. That's Coach McGurk from Home Movies.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what I know him from Home Movies because I fucking loved that show back in the day. I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world, and it still is. And no one has seen it. No one has watched it. Obviously, you have.
Why have they not watched Home Movies? Home Movies is good.
But when I saw my first episode of Bob's Burgers, I was way late to the train. I still haven't seen much, but when he started speaking, I was like, home movies, I know him. Where is he from? And
Yes!
and then it was this. I was like, I know that voice. Who is this? Where is he from? So yeah, okay, that makes sense now. That makes sense. That's who it was. God damn it! I should know that by now.
This movie has such a comedy pedigree to it. Did you watch all the way to the end and see all the different people that were in the special thanks?
I didn't read the special thanks. In me of like, shit, I need to watch this before we need to record. I skipped most of the credits, and I happened to see that there was an after credit scene, and so I watched that.
Yeah.
And it was like in 1991. Sorry, guys, I thought we said 9:30. No, we said 9 so that we could all be here by 9:30.
Yes.
So that was good.
So, some of the people in the special thanks are, of course, big comedy legends, like Stephen Colbert.
Sure.
Thomas Lennon, he's the guy who created Reno 911.
Okay.
Matt Besser and Matt Walsh, who founded the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, this huge improv and comedy theater in Los Angeles, along with Amy Poehler and maybe somebody else I'm forgetting. They think Dan Castellaneta, who is the voice of Homer Simpson.
Okay.
I don't think he's in this. He did something, I guess. They think Mary Louise Parker from Weeds, great comedic actress, many great things. They also think, these are the ones that puzzle me, Billy Crudup and Liev Schreiber.
So they think what?
Dr. Manhattan and Sabretooth.
I mean, it's always surprising when you find out that actors who take on like dramatic roles and are known for dramatic roles actually got their start in comedy.
Yeah.
Like I that happens a lot, or I'll hear people talking about it, but that actually makes a lot of sense. I was watching I think it was one of the Rooster Teeth podcasts. I'm not sure if it was the actual Rooster Teeth podcast or one of their other shows, but yeah, they mentioned that they a long time ago like took a bunch of improv classes just at their local whatever, you know, and how much that helped them to just be on camera and you know how to react in different situations and not make it awkward, because they know just how to jump right to the next thing, and how much of a confidence boost that is, and to even use that in more of a dramatic sense. So I like having actors that maybe weren't in this thing could be some like, hey, we went to you for advice on how to do something, or maybe Liev Schreiber is in a local comedy group with one of them and they knew each other from college or something, you know? Yeah. And it's like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have continued on my path, you know, to that. Who knows?
You know who's in one of the Netflix TV series based off of this is John Hamm.
Yeah, I remember that.
My own homeboy.
He was in that. So what did Netflix do? Netflix brought this back, but they've done two things with it. Is one of them a movie and one's a TV show?
I believe they are both TV series, like short 8-episode TV series. I've only watched the first one so far. The first one is what the first day of camp is. The entire series is the first day of camp. And so it kind of sets up some of the stuff they're going to be working with. Like, you know, like the softball game scene where they're like, we're going to beat our rivals from Camp Tiger Claw. Like, you meet Camp Tiger Claw in this special. That's then they made another short series that was the 10 years later, 1991, everybody's meeting back up again. I haven't watched that one yet.
That's funny. So it must have been the first one that I heard about, because I didn't hear much. I guess I thought the first one was the 10-year later thing, because from what I had heard, it was, it's all these actors when they're really, really young and unknown, And this was, one of their first big comedy movies. I guess if you can even call this a big comedy movie, but it was all of these unknown actors before they had their start, and Netflix picked it up again, and this is all the same actors, but they've obviously aged a whole bunch, but it's still like the same week that it all happened. So I was like, oh, that's fantastic. Like, they don't I mean, I guess it's one of those things. I don't think about the style back then. They all wore like the short shorts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When Netflix brought it back, that was what I thought of this idea of just like, oh, the clothes aren't gonna fit them. Like, they're all gonna be in short shorts and stuff like that, because back then they didn't do short shorts, because that's not what happened in the in that time. So that was also something I was like, oh yeah, all the guys wore short shorts back then. That was interesting.
Yeah, and some of them can still rock them in the first day of camp special. Ken Marino and Michael Ian Black both still look great.
Thighs for days. There we go.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess all of these are on Netflix, since I guess Netflix picked it up the day. I guess they still have the original one. That's where I watched it, and then they have their two series after that.
I think they might also have a documentary about the making of this movie. I think it might be called Hurricane of Fun, and they made this movie at a real summer camp in the off season, and because it was the off season, it was raining and it was freezing. So everything you were seeing was like frenetically filmed in between rain showers.
That's funny.
And like everybody was miserable, but it just bonded them all together like that much more closely. Okay. Yeah, if you get into this movie, check out that documentary. It's some really interesting perspective on the whole thing.
And I could be wrong, but I think I saw a comic book spin-off of this.
This I'm not familiar with.
Interwebs, wet, hot, wrong keyboard. I have my laptop and my desktop here, and my desktop has a wireless keyboard thing, so I just have it in my lap here. Wet Hot American Summer comic book? ? From Boom Studios.
Showing results for
2018. Let's see.
Ooh.
I'm gonna lower this real fast so I can see the entire Wet Hot American Summer closes camp forever. Boom Studios enters these dark woods, and Creative Licensing are proud to announce the creative team behind the Wet Hot American Summer original graphic novel, arriving in stores November 2018. Writer Christopher Hastings from Gwenpool and artist Noah Hayes from Goldie Vance will deliver the first ever graphic novel tie-in to the eponymous film, featuring your favorite characters from Camp Firewood in an all-new story. This original graphic novel will feature a cover by Joe Quiones. Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see how this translates to an on-the-page medium.
The characters look spot on. I see...
send me a link.
I see all of them there. Okay, let me see if I can figure this
I guess I could just also Google this myself.
I mean,
not make you send me your
literally
link.
typed in Wet Hot American Summer comic book, and it was the first thing that came up.
Yes.
But yeah, and there's an article about it and some sketches and stuff like that. But yeah, so I guess all of that stuff is out there. So if you like this, there is more of it to check out.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic. So I mentioned Hot Rod and that kind of style of comedic stuff. Is there anything, Melissa, that you would recommend to people if they liked this? They might like some other things as well.
This is, if you really like the absurd kind of sketchy aspects of this, I would recommend checking out the Comedy Bang Bang TV show.
Okay,
which is
I've
kind of a
definitely heard
take
of them.
on, it's kind of a take on late night talk shows. It's based off an improv comedy podcast.
I was going to say,
in relation to
wasn't
this,
it a podcast first? That was like a big comedy
yeah.
one? Okay.
It's still going. It's been going for like 9 years or something. It's one of my favorites. I listen to it every week. And the TV shows also got that like loose structure of a type of story, a type of entertainment that is very familiar to you, and it just makes it go completely crazy.
Bonkers.
In
Okay.
all of these weird, subtle, different ways.
Interesting. Good to know. I might also add some of the Chevy Chase National Lampoon's movies. Those ones are obviously a lot more structured, but I still feel like it's the same type of humor. Like that whole scene with them like trading jackets and flannels. I feel like that's something I would see in a Chevy Chase movie. So
You reminded me of
like
another really good movie, Top Secret, which is made by the guys who made Airplane, and it stars Val Kilmer, and it's a takeoff of spy movies combined with like 1950s like Elvis movies. Like Val Kilmer plays this pop singer who's like an Elvis corollary, and they send him on a goodwill concert to like some enemy country, but as like a cultural, we're reaching out and sharing our culture with you. Let's extend an olive branch, but secretly he is a spy and he's there to do espionage stuff.
Okay.
And so it's like the Elvis
what if
concert,
Elvis was a
kind of
secret
musical film.
super spy?
Yeah, it's
Weird.
Oh,
Okay.
it's crazy. It's so crazy. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I remember it being a good time.
Sounds good. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and pitch the stuff that we will do for next week.
I am ready.
Yeah, so it is my turn to do the pitches for what we will do this next week. And yeah, you're going on vacation this weekend, but then you're gonna be moving by the end of this week, so you're gonna have a lot to do this month. So we're gonna be doing some kind of shorter stuff this month. You and I have kind of already talked about that, but just to let you listeners out there know, so this next month is going to be like movies, or like a short graphic novel, or like one volume of a comic book, something that you can read or watch very fast. So this week I have one movie, and two comic books. The first one, pitch number one, is a Netflix film. It's a Netflix original film called Extinction. It's a brand new film. I think it came out like a week or two ago. It stars Michael Pena and Mike Coulter, who you guys will know if you guys are big Marvel fans. Michael Pena is, I think it's Luis in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I think so,
it's either Luis or Lou. It's not Louis. I don't think it's Louis, because that doesn't sound right. Anyways, he's the hilarious one who's always like, so I know this one dude, right, who knows Captain America and his, and all of that stuff. It's hilarious. And then Mike Coulter, you guys will recognize as Luke Cage from the Netflix original shows on there. But I saw the preview, because Netflix does that annoying thing where everything just immediately starts playing and blasting. It's like MySpace back in the day. Remember we hated MySpace when they had the songs that played automatically? It's the worst. But yeah, it actually looked really, really cool. It follows Michael Pena's character, who's a family man. He's a father, and he starts having this reoccurring dream in which he continually loses his family. and stuff happens. I don't know if it's a natural force or if it's aliens or if it's just sci-fi tech or if it's time travel. I don't know what, but there is this kind of, it seems to be this extinction level event is starting to happen. And he's starting to wonder if this recurring dream was actually visions of the future, and stuff like that. So that sounds pretty interesting. Netflix puts out so much content these days that absolutely no one can keep up. Some of it looks fantastic. Some of it, I don't know. This one looks good, so I'm hoping it's good. It definitely caught my interest. But that's on Netflix. If you guys have that extinction, I'm sure if you turn on Netflix, it will be one of, if not the first thing that pops up. The other two pitches that I have are both comic books. The first one, I guess my second pitch, but the first comic book is Infinite Loop. It is a sci-fi graphic novel that asks the age-old question: what would you do, or what would you risk for a chance at true love? Meet Tandy.
I like that.
Meet Teddy, a young woman who lives in a faraway future where time traveling is a common practice, and her job is to maintain the status quo by correcting time paradoxes. But when she meets Anno, a time paradox, and the girl of her dreams, Teddy must decide between fixing the time stream or the love of her life, both of which have unique consequences. Bum bum bum. Yeah, so she ends up falling in love with this girl, but the girl herself is the time paradox that she has to fix and stop. It's published by IDW. It's only 6 issues long. As I mentioned, it's on Comixology Unlimited, or you can buy it for $11 on Comixology right now. So, pretty cheap. And that's pitch number 2. Pitch number 3 is volume 1 of a book called Spencer and Locke. And I've heard good things about this. This is published by Action Lab, which is a much smaller comic book publisher that not a lot of people know about. But this collects the hit miniseries. This collects the hit miniseries Spencer and Locke. Okay, that sentence does not make sense. Oh, collecting. That's what it was. Collecting, not this collects. Come on, Kyle, learn to read. Collecting the hit miniseries, Spencer and Locke follows hard-boiled detective Locke as he investigates a brutal murder with the strangest of partners, his childhood imaginary panther, Spencer. But when they face brutal gunfights, deadly car chases, and memories of Locke's traumatic upbringing, can this unlikely pair survive long enough to find the truth? Now, this one is interesting. I've actually heard an interview with the writer, David Pepose, I believe is how you say his last name. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Where basically he got the idea for this. He wanted to do a crime noir comic, but using characters that he already knows and loves. He just wanted a new spin on that. And you're gearing up like I think you figured it out. Spencer and Locke is a older play on Calvin and Hobbes. So it's like, what if Calvin and Hobbes grew up to become detectives? And it's a crime noir thing there.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he's putting out volume 2 right now, if I'm not mistaken. And supposedly the villain in volume 2, or the new villain that comes up, is a new take on Beetle Bailey. So it's like he's kind of taking these older comic book characters and reimagining them. And I'm fascinated to know like what this is, because it sounds both really awesome and like absolutely ridiculous, as Melissa is in stitches right now laughing.
Yeah, because what I was expecting you to say was that the villain would be based on little Susie, who was Calvin's friend and foil. I was not expecting you to go
like
to
little Susie in this book. Who knows?
Yeah, I was not expecting you to go to other parts of the comic book page. Like, yeah, then he fights Beetle Bailey. Is he gonna fight like a giant Far Side bug in Volume 3?
Well, from what I understand, it's not campy in the sense that, oh, he's fighting Beetle Bailey. But yeah, it is this kind of alternate take, reimagining of this stuff. So, I mean, I don't know anything about Beetle Bailey or what his comics read like, but I imagine like Volume 2 of this, which we are not going to read, has a much more serious tone, darker stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, it this doesn't seem like it's gonna have the comedy of the funny papers, that you might see in the Sunday paper. So who knows? But yeah, this is also on Comixology Unlimited, and Volume 1 is only $6 if you guys want to buy that as well. So pitch number 1, Extinction. Michael Pena, Mike Coulter guy has reoccurring nightmare. Extinction level event happens. Maybe that nightmare was visions of the future. Who knows? Infinite loop. Woman is from the far future and in charge of fixing the time stream. Ends up falling in love with one of the paradoxes that she's supposed to fix. And then Spencer and Locke, Volume 1. What if Calvin and Hobbes grew up to become detectives?
I am so intrigued by the concept of Spencer and Locke, but I have to follow my heart, and my heart tells me to go for the love story every time. So I want to talk about Infinite Loop.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. I remember one time long ago I heard someone talk about this book, but I have no idea what they said. So this whole anecdote is completely useless. But yeah, I'm excited to read that. I was looking through Comixology Unlimited for stuff that we could do, and it's like, oh, I recognize that name. I'll put that on the list.
Yeah.
Time traveling lesbians sounds fantastic. For those of you who might not be getting it on Comixology, the book is written by Pierre Collinet and art by Elsa Chartier. Yeah. Sweet. I'm excited for next week.
Yeah, this should be a fun read.
Definitely. Take us home, Melissa.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for listening. And you can catch our show in the future in our regularly scheduled time slot, Sundays at 11 a.m. Central, 12 for you, Kyle, on the Eastern Seaboard.
12 noon.
Check your own local listings.
Yeah.
You can go to twitch.tv/the Whatnauts or straight to thewhatnauts.com/live streams. You can join the discussion as it happens and come say hi to us. And you can get to hear the show live and early. And then after we live stream the show later, a week later, we put it up on YouTube, and then we put it up on your favorite podcatcher app. And you can catch the live streams to get it early, or you can go to patreon.com/thewhatnauts and support us for just $1 for the cost of your own
Just
can
$1.
of mixed vegetables, talking or not. You can support us and get episodes before they're posted anywhere else. But if you can't support us on Patreon, that's fine. You can just enjoy the show, tell a friend, tell your enemies over at Camp Tiger Claw. Why is the word tiger difficult to say?
I have no idea.
It's like one of the first 50 words a child learns. You can follow us on social media. We are at the Whatnauts.
I was wondering.
I think so. My niece is a year and a half old. I think she can say tiger.
There you go,
Babies
kids.
know tigers.
You heard it here first, folks.
I'll check with her and I'll get back to you.
Sounds good. Stay tuned for updates on this story.
Do babies know the word tiger? And our website is thewhatnauts.com. You can find me on Twitter at WilkyWit. And Kyle, where can they find you?
The fine ladies and gentlemen of whatever summer camp you attended can find me on Twitter at Hush315. I do have a little bit of housekeeping to announce. I am like 95% sure that all of our RSS feed troubles have been worked out and everything is operating smoothly now. Meaning, and I did a little bit of an experiment to see just how many of you are subscribed to our podcast on a certain RSS feed. And in fact, 100% of you are subscribed on that feed. Basically, if you are listening to this as a podcast right now, you are subscribed to an RSS feed that will be obsolete in, I'm giving you guys a month, okay? In a month from now. So this is one of, I want to say like first or second week of, what's after August? September? First or second week of September, this RSS feed will no longer be updated. Or at least it will no longer be made available on iTunes or whatever podcast app that you use. If you search the Whatnauts in the Apple podcast thing or on, I use one called Overcast, all of our shows will pop up. You will see the review show, the captain's log, and the reactor core. Go subscribe to all of those shows. That's where you can get our shows from now on. You guys have 1 month to make that change. Otherwise, you're just going to be confused about why you're not getting any more of our episodes. However, this will help out, I think, because when we first started doing this stuff, I think there was a lot of people that just subscribe to help get our numbers up and don't actually listen to the show, so it might weed out some of the inactive listeners. But yes, if you guys could do us a huge favor and literally subscribe to The Review Show by The Whatnauts. You can search The Whatnauts and all of our shows will come up. If you're only interested in one of our shows, you only have to, do that one. You don't have to do all three. But yeah. Start making that change now, and everything will be updated ASAP. There you go. We'll be putting that out on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that to make announcements. So, there you go. But you heard it here first, folks.
Well, thank you for joining us on episode 19 of The Review Show. We've been Melissa and Kyle. You can join us soon, and we're going to be reading Infinite Loop. It sounds fun. Go read it and warm your heart and come here and talk to us about it.
There you go. Yay, space lesbians.
All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.